Welcome back to the KO Sports Corner. My name is Kevin Barral. Today we are gonna go start a new series on this channel, which we'll be previewing every Saturday. Let's do it every Saturday. It is called the MLB 2021 Offseason Plans. So pretty much the series is gonna go by going through each MLB team. Currently, gonna start with the non-playoff teams, obviously. So today we're gonna be starting with the National League. Central, which would be the Cubs. We're going to start with the Cubs, the first team that didn't make the playoffs. I think the second worst team in that division. We're going to go into what their offseason looks like, a very mysterious one. And I mean, there's not much more to say on it. Let's get right into it. Obviously, we're going to go in through some details of how these videos are going to go and how we're going to discuss them. So here we go. The structure of the video, it's going to be a little bit simple. It's going to be looking at the roster as of right now, what the team has at this moment. So pretty much how the roster ended. Then we're gonna assess the needs of the team, and I think for Chicago, it's pretty obvious what they are. We'll get into that when the time comes. Then we'll go into free agent targets and trades that make sense for the Cubs to make. And finally, we'll do, I guess, one off-season hot take, bold take, and then pretty much the expectations that this team is gonna go through this season. I think that is something that I think that's the best way to really go through these videos, and we're going to start going right through it right now. Catcher's position is the first one we'll be going into, which is Wilson Contreras, Eric Castillo, and Tyler Payne. And then they also have another guy by the name of Miguel Amaya, who is a top prospect catcher. Was in the MLB this season, from according to MLB Pipeline, and that's the guy who is going to have a huge future for the Chicago Cubs. Wilson Contreras, I think he does get traded. I already have my trade scenario ready. I don't know too much more about Eric Castillo and Tyler Payne. Those are pretty much nobodies to me, as well as the whole bullpen this team has. So I won't be going into them as much. But I mean, let's go on to the next position, which is first base, which is a position of not too much need. They have Frank Schwindel in there. They also have Matt Duffy and Tyler Ladendorf. So I do like what Chicago does have at first base, especially with Frank Schwindel in there. Schwindel. I think that's going to help him for sure. He's in my starting lineup. Just, my final roster, I guess my final starting lineup is he's in there. And then as of Matt Duffy and Tyler Ladendorf, I really don't know much about them besides Matt Duffy. I know he did play, I think, sometime with the Kansas City Royals. So yeah, Chicago's team really looks like a triple A roster, sometimes even the quadruple A, which is the guys who are always up and down. So we're gonna move on to the next position, which is second base. We have a lot of pretty much the same names, but the one I didn't include here, which is I think the most important player on the team, maybe the best player on their team besides Wilson Contreras, it's Patrick Wisdom. Patrick Wisdom had a great rookie season, showed a lot of strides in there, and so he will for sure be in the starting lineup. Not at second base, but he is somewhere in there. And then we have Trent Giamborne, Matt Duffy, Tyler Ladendorf, and then we have Sergio Alcantara, which is a new guy on that roster. He did have some part in the role. He had some good roles with Chicago this season. Seemed to be a pretty good player. I'll put up the stats on the screen right now. Not the most productive guy, but I mean, good enough for the Chicago Cubs to go through the full MLB season. So we're going to go on to the next position, which is third base. So pretty much third base and shortstop pretty much consists of the same thing. I'll put them all on the screen as well. I mean, it's Sergio Alcantara, Matt Duffy, Tyler Ladendorf. Yeah, I do like what Chicago does have. Not much talent, but free agency wise, we do have some options for them to go after, and that final lineup is going to look actually really interesting to see what that team does. I mean, the expectations I have are pretty simple. I mean, you'll see why. I mean, it's an exciting offseason that I have planned for Chicago. I know the president of baseball of operations, I think his name is Jed Hoyer. I'll put the name on the screen once again in the picture. He said he wants to go for pitching. That was according to a source from on Twitter, MLB Rumors. He wants to go after pitching. That's going to be his main need. But I don't think he's going to go after young, talented pitching. I mean, they have it. They don't have much of it in the minors, though. But if you look at it, free agency, they're going to have to be veteran guys. And I'll get into that later once we do get into the pitching rotation, what they have, because it is not that pleasing. I mean, I'll show you. There's only a couple guys, and let's move on to the next position, which is the starting pitchers on the team, which, as you could see, it's not too bad. I mean, there's only 3 guys out of the 5 here that really do, I guess, look good for me. Kyle Hendricks, Zach Davies, Alec Mills, all I know. And I think they'll trade 2 out of those guys. Justin Steele, and then you have Corey Abbott. Guys weren't really too well known, but Chicago's rotation did not look too good. They brought up some minor league guys up this year, some top 30 guys. who do seem to be promising. So we'll see what goes down with them. We're going to move on to the relief pitchers. Cue the trash can. And literally, that's what it is, because I have no idea who a single reliever on the Chicago Cubs are. I'll obviously put the picture up of all the guys. You may know them, Chicago Cubs fans. I'm sorry, but I have no idea who these relievers are. I think there's only one guy I know who played for the Phillies. Besides that, I have no idea. We're gonna move on to the outfield, which does not look too promising either. Ian Happ, Rafael Ortega, Trace Thompson, Joancy Fargas. I remember Joancy Fargas from the Mets. He went to the Cubs right after, and then you have Ian Happ. I do not know who Rafael Ortega is. Then you have Trace Thompson. Besides that, Chicago doesn't have much. I mean, you really look at the team, it's very disappointing. So I think the best thing to do right now is look at what their needs are. And it's pretty obvious. They need pitching and they need some outfield depth as well as infield depth. So they pretty much need it all. I don't think they need a catcher, though. And they have a pretty good backup option there for the future. They could make some nice trades and acquire some outfield prospects, which I do have a trade with Wilson Contreras that will get them that and some pitching. You have a great outfielder in Hayward, who really you could, I guess, get some good value out of him. Then you have Kyle Hendricks, who you could get some value out of him, Wilson Contreras. So that'll all bring some talented guys onto the roster. I do have one specific trader with Contreras. The other two guys, I couldn't find one specifically. Player values on the MLB trade machine are a little bit difficult to really go with, because you really think of it, it's going to be hard to make trades on that. There's only one trade that actually went through. That was a good trade. But Chicago just really needs all the help they could get. I know I talked to my good friend Ethan Badowski. You guys all know him. That he was with Fish Stripes, now with Just Baseball. But I talked to him. He's like, they need pitching. He's a Chicago Cubs fan, diehard. They need pitching. That was the text. Then he spoke to me about some trades that Kyle Hendricks could go to. So I do have a team for him. Then we have Dexter Fowler, who I think I have a couple teams he could go to. So we'll be showing that right now. We're starting with Wilson Contreras, which is the first guy I want to discuss. He is going to for sure be traded to the Miami Marlins, in my opinion. You're giving up the minor league player of the year in Peyton Burdick, Evan Fitter, who's a top 30 prospect, as well as Kyle Nicholas, who is one of the top picks in the 2020 draft class, who really stood out for the Marlins and has been pretty good. He's up in Double-A right now. Fitter is in the single A level. Peyton Burdick is in Double-A, well, Triple-A now. He won minor league player of the year, and you're getting Wilson Contreras. So Miami, I think, is giving up a little bit more than what's needed. You can maybe just give up Burdick and Fitter, and you could probably get Contreras. But Chicago made a mistake, and Chicago Cubs fans who are watching this, Wilson Contreras is on a 1-year deal, so his value, I guess you could say, is going to go down. Right now, if he was on a 2-year deal or maybe even a 3-year deal, Miami would have to give up Fitter, Burdick, Kyle Nicholas, maybe even Zach McCambley you would have to throw in there. Maybe even have to throw in one of the Mesa brothers. That's how much I think the haul could have been. But right now, this is, I think, the most you'll get, and it does help out a lot. Burdick, Nicholas, and Fitter. Those are all guys you could throw into a MLB roster maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. At least Nicholas and Burdick could go into an MLB roster next season. Burdick is 100% going to be in that roster. He's going to be one of the big guys there to develop and really get going. He is a minor league player of the year. He's proven himself in all leagues, and he is one great hitter. And Miami does have Brian De La Cruz now. So that really does make Miami more willingly to trade away a guy like Peyton Burdick, or vice versa. They could have thrown Brian De La Cruz in this deal, and I still think Miami would make this deal, as well as Chicago. So it's an extremely fair trade for both sides. Chicago gets some very good top 30 prospects in return, and Miami gets the catcher they need, which is Wilson Contreras, the top 5 catcher in this league. It can't get any better than this for sure for the Marlins and the Cubs. So this is the first move. Then we're going to go into the second move, which is trading Kyle Hendricks to the Angels for a top 30 prospect. I mean, this is, I think, a really good deal that could go down. Angels need as much pitching as they could get. You could get some top 30 guys in there. I would say maybe 2 top 30 guys for Kyle Hendricks. Maybe you get a top 30 and a top 100 player for Kyle Hendricks. That could be for sure an option, but I don't see him staying on the roster too much longer. He was very close to going to the Mets. I would assume the Mets revisit that, and as well as the Cubs maybe revisit that contract that they had when they made that Javi Baez trade. They tried to include Kyle Hendricks in the trade, so I would see Chicago trying to do something like that for sure. Then we're going to move into the final move that I guess you could say I have. Trading Casey Hayward over to the Giants, Dodgers, or Astros, all teams that I would be looking for outfield depth. Probably going to get some good top 30 prospects. I would say go to the Giants. You could try to get Helio Ramos. Maybe you can even throw in an Alex Mills or a Zach Davies, which I know the Chicago would be willing to trade. You would have to make some kind of a deal like that, really, to get that guy, Helio Ramos, top 30 guy, very high. You can maybe even try and get a guy like Joey Bart, who's their top guy in that farm system, or who was for a couple of years now, and no longer is just because he's on that MLB roster. So I do like what Chicago could do with those guys. They have Zach Davies, obviously another trade option. Alec Mills could be another trade option. They have guys who they could really get rid of here and get some really good value, kind of like what the Marlins did at the first year. I mean, Chicago did it. They got rid of Rizzo, they got rid of Baez and Chris Bryant, and they got some really good value back. The only issue is those guys were all on 1-year deals, which I think hurt the value that Chicago could have gotten. If they were on maybe 2-year deals, Chicago maybe could have gotten at least 2 to 3 top 30 prospects from each deal that they made. And maybe Casey Hayward wouldn't get them that right now. Obviously, I don't think he would, but he could get at least maybe 1 or 2 guys and maybe a really low prospect, like a top 100 prospect in that minor league system. I do think the Giants may have the best package to offer Chicago. Houston could have a pretty good package. I mean, I think all those 3 teams could have good packages. The Dodgers had to give up a lot in that farm system. For example, Josiah Gray, Kyber Ruiz. So those guys aren't in that farm system anymore. Dodgers farm system, it'd be a little bit depleted after that trade, but they didn't give up that crazy prospect that you would imagine. The Giants, I think, would be the best option for the Chicago Cubs. Hey, give me Helio Ramos. We'll give you Casey Hayward. We'll give you Zach Davies. We'll give you whatever you want. Just give me Helio Ramos and try to get a throw in for Joey Bart. So that would be it for trades. Now, when we go to free agency, I do have them signing veteran pitchers. That's what they need right now. Kill me all you want, Chicago fans, but pitching is what they need. Mike Fiers, Matt Harvey, James Paxton, Julio Teheran, Jose Urena are all great options for this team. You could kill me all you want. You could say all you want in the comment sections, but you guys aren't going to win many games next season. I mean, regardless, this could help. This could really help. I think Chicago could really make a push, can make some kind of stride. This is the first season of a rebuild. You're going to try to want to get the young guys to develop. You want to rebuild the minor leagues. Chicago needs pitching, and that's what Hoyer said at the beginning. They're going to go for pitching, so I don't see them going for a top guy like Justin Verlander. If they do, they're not going to trade away what they have. They're going to try to re-sign guys like having Baez back, Chris Bryant, Rizzo, try to all bring those guys back, reunite the gang, try to go for a World Series. If you're going to sign a guy like Verlander or a Zach Greinke, a Noah Syndergaard or Jacob deGrom, whoever it is, if you got to go for one of those guys, you're not trying to rebuild. So Chicago, I think, is trying to rebuild, but you have to think of it like this. This team is an absolute mystery of what they're going to do in the free agency or an offseason in general. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Chicago said they want to win, and they sold. They said, now we rebuilt our farm system. Now it's time to get back into things and try to, get this team back to what it was a couple of years ago. So yeah, I think at least I'm 2 to 3 possible starters to roster. If I had to really choose, I would go Mike Fiers, Matt Harvey, and Jose Urena out of the 3. If you only all good options, I would say. They're not good anymore. They're past their prime, all of these guys. But Matt Harvey somehow still finds to get on an MLB roster. Mike Fiers has always been pretty productive lately. James Paxton couldn't pitch. He was injured. Julio Teheran, Jose Urena, guys who are pretty much not good anymore. Urena had one good season with the Marlins. It was the I think it was the 2018 season with the Marlins that was really good. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's move on to move number 5, which is establish the bullpen just a bit. Their bullpen is horrible. These are all good options. Keon Kela, who was a buyer's option last year in the trade deadline, maybe goes to Chicago to be the best guy in that bullpen. Tony Watson, another good option. Brooks Raley, Alexander Vizcaino, Nick Vincent, Rafael Dolis, who we all know from the Blue Jays. These are all good options. All put up pretty good stats last season. I think Chicago's going to go for those guys who weren't that expensive. I think you can pretty much get all of these guys on minor league deals except Kela, who I think would be at least a 1-year, maybe 2-year deal. You secure him for the future. So I like what Chicago could do here with the bullpen. They could go a lot of options. Maybe they get a guy like Sergio Romo to, establish the bullpen. But I think Vizcaino is the only minor leaguer I have, which is a top 30 prospect. I think he's 19. He played in the MLB at some point, what Pipeline said. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on that end. And I think that's all the moves that we have. All right, now going into expectation / the hot take. Young players have to have successful seasons. Yes, Chicago needs to get guys like the Amaya, Burdick if the trade goes down. So obviously, this would be a hypothetical offseason. I'm making this offseason up. So when you look at the starting lineup, you're gonna notice that a lot of those guys aren't even on the team right now. But yeah, they need to help out the young players, see what they could do, establish which ones seem to be good, which ones seem to be bad. And coming from someone who went through a rebuild with the Marlins, and hopefully we're leaving that rebuild now. You really have to find who those young guys are as quickly as possible, because now look what the Miami has with Isan Diaz, who really didn't pan out. Lewis Brinson hasn't panned out. Monte Harrison hasn't panned out. Yamamoto didn't pan out. It just didn't work out for any of those guys. So it's very crucial to find guys who are going to work out with the team and keep them in there, play them, let them be consistent. And I think they're going to get 60 to 70 wins. That's usually what a rebuilding team gets. Maybe they'll get a little bit less. I think that'll be a very good season for Chicago if they get around 65 to 70 wins. I think that's what really rebuilding teams go for. Marlins this season, they had around 65 wins. I think they won 65 and 94. I think that was the record. So Chicago going with that win amount would be pretty good, actually. Define who are the key players of the rotation, and the bullpen is another very crucial thing to keep in mind, because when you really want to have a pitching rotation, you really want to keep that one for years to come so they can get adjusted. They don't have to be moving around. Don't shift them too much. I think that'll really put up an impact, at least this season. Just if you could really go out there and just find the right guys, you put them in there, and then you could get rid of those veterans who I was talking about. And then finally, see what Peyton Burdick is made of. He's going to be maybe your best player on that team. Besides Schwindel and Wisdom, it's going to be like a little big three. Peyton Burdick is a really good baseball player. He's shown it all. I'm going to put the stats on the screen. But yeah, Burdick is going to be one hell of a player. Besides that, I mean, there's not much more to say. He's great defensively, offensively. He could really play the outfield well. I could talk a little more about this guy with my friend Alex Carver, who covers the Marlins, a Marlins minor. So, yeah, besides that, this is their expectations. And if I really had to say a hot take, I would say if Peyton Burdick gets traded, he will have the best season that he's going to have. He's going to be nominated for Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with that. He's going to be a Rookie of the Year nominee. And that's my hot take. But, I mean, if you want to say a hot take, if he's not traded, I would go with the Chicago Cubs finish third in the division, maybe even second, trying to go for the wild card spot. This team really lights it up and goes for a wild card spot. That'll be my hot take. All right, I think this is the moment a lot of you have been waiting for, the final lineup. It's not 1 through 9. It's just positions. First base, Frank Schwindel. Second base, Jose Iglesias. I think they'll sign him on a minor league deal via free agency. He's been pretty much bouncing around a lot through the league. Maybe he goes back to Boston where he currently is. And then there's Patrick Wisdom at third, Sergio Alcantara at shortstop, and then Miguel Amaya, who is a top 30 prospect, very high. I think he's like top 5. He'll be getting that catcher role. So that is what it looks like in the infield. And then we'll go to the outfield, and I guess the DH will consider it as well. It looks like this with Alexander Canario, who is a top 30 prospect, will move up. Abdul Herrera, I think they'll get him in the offseason. It's going to be a difficult way to get him because he has an $11 million option, which I know that the Phillies are going to take that. He's going to go into the free agent market. Peyton Burdick at right field. Then you have Ian Happ at the DH. Finally, their starting pitcher, Braylon Marquez, who's a top 30 guy. He's, I think, their highest rated pitcher. He's like number 2 or number 3. Yeah, I think it makes sense to get their top guys to start coming up, see what they can do. He was already at the MLB level according to Pipeline. So I'm interested to see what, happens. So this is where we're going to end it, folks. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what team you guys want to see next. I was thinking about doing, I think, the Cincinnati Reds, maybe even the Miami Marlins, but I want to stay by division. So yeah, let me know in the comment section. What team do you guys want to see next? As of the recording of the video, we're only 4 subs away from 200. So if we do hit it, thank you so much. I didn't think this channel would ever hit 200 subs in a million years. We've grown a lot from where we started. I'm not as consistent anymore on the channel, but I'm trying to make that happen. I'm trying to make that change to start being a lot more consistent. Trust me, guys. This channel is just getting started. We have a lot of stuff coming up. Octavio wants to come back on the channel. I'm going to try to get him back. We're going to get the live streams going. Trying to get my Fish Stripes boys on here, talking about the Marlins a little bit, ranting, maybe even about the MLB in general. They all like they all like teams in MLB. For example, Ethan likes the Cubs. Isaac likes the Rays, trying to get Daniel Alvarez Montes back, trying to get some minor league coverage with Alex Carver on here as well. So I mean, the ceiling is endless. I don't even know where this channel is going to reach. Obviously, the goal is 1,000 subs, trying to get the watch hours that we need to start taking this to the next level. And hopefully, people in this world start to notice what work we're doing on this channel. So yeah, once again, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Peace out and have a great day.